You know, we tend to think of science as a pretty modern invention. But what if I told you that the very logic your doctor uses today, the absolute foundation of modern medicine, actually got its start thousands and thousands of years ago? Just think about it. You go to the doctor's office, you tell them what's wrong, they ask you a bunch of questions, maybe they listen to your heart. It's all very calm, very logical, right? They're just gathering evidence before they jump to any conclusions. And it feels distinctly 21st century.
In this whole process, it breaks down into a really clear four-step method. First, they examine your symptoms. Then, they come up with a diagnosis, what's actually causing the problem. After that, a prognosis, which is really just an educated guess on how you'll recover. And finally, based on all of that, they give you a treatment plan. That's the cornerstone of medicine as we know it.
But here's the real question. How modern is it, really? I mean, when do you think this rational, systematic way of looking at health actually began? A couple hundred years ago? Maybe back with the ancient Greeks?
Well, the answer is hiding right here, in this ancient document. This is the Edwin Smith Papyrus. It is the world's oldest surviving surgical textbook, written in Egypt around 1600 BCE. And get this, it lays out that exact same four-step method we just talked about.
The level of sophistication here is just staggering. I mean, this document, which might even be a copy of something written way back in 3000 BCE, details 48 different cases of physical trauma, and it does it in a perfectly logical order, starting at the head and working its way down the body. But the most amazing part? It's almost entirely free of magic and spells. It's all about pure, rational observation.
So, how did these ancient doctors actually think? Let's take a closer look at the incredible logic they were using for every single patient that came through their door. Okay, so after the whole examination and diagnosis, the physician would give one of three verdicts. Think of it like an ancient kind of triage. The first was, an ailment I will treat. Basically, they were confident they could fix it. The second, an ailment with which I will contend, meant, okay, this is tricky, the outcome is uncertain, but I'll give it a shot. And the third, which is just amazing, was an ailment not to be treated. They actually recognized their own limits. That's a huge hallmark of real scientific thinking. And let's be clear, we are not talking about simple bumps and bruises here. They were diagnosing incredibly complex stuff. The papyrus describes skull fractures so severe they cause cerebrospinal fluid to leak. It even connects a specific type of head injury to aphasia, the loss of speech, and it flat out makes the connection between a damaged spinal cord and paralysis. This is basically advanced neurology thousands of years before anyone even knew what a neuron was. And this shows their knowledge was super practical. This carving from the Temple of Kam Ombo shows us the actual tools they were using. You can see scalpels, probes, forceps, a whole toolkit. These guys weren't just thinkers, they were hands-on surgeons. And their skill went way beyond just surgery. They were creating functional prosthetics. This artificial big toe, made of wood and leather, was found on a mummy, and it's almost 3,000 years old. You can even see signs of wear on it, which tells us it wasn't just for looks in the afterlife. No, this was used every single day. But it's really important to get the whole picture here. This incredibly rational surgery didn't exist in some kind of bubble. It was part of a much more complex worldview, a world where science and what we'd probably call magic lived side by side. To see this other side of the coin, all we have to do is look at the Ebers Papyrus. It was written around the same time as the Edwin Smith. But while the Smith Papyrus is all about surgery, the Ebers is focused on internal medicine. And in it, you find this fascinating mix of really smart, rational observations right next to magical spells and incantations meant to literally scare a disease away. Their understanding of the heart is the perfect example of this contradiction. On one hand, the Ebers Papyrus shows they knew the heart was a pump at the center of a whole system of vessels. They even knew how important it was to take a pulse. But on the other hand, they also believed the heart was where all your intelligence and emotions came from, and that those vessels carried not just blood, but also air, tears, and even semen. And this pattern wasn't just a one-off thing. If you look at the even older Kahun Papyrus, which deals with gynecology and women's health, you see the exact same thing. It's a blend of very practical treatments and, well, spiritual or magical beliefs. This was just how they saw the world, a mix of what you could see and what you had to believe. So what does this all mean? When you put it all together, the brilliant, rational surgery and the magical thinking, what is the real legacy of ancient Egyptian medicine? Well, as James Henry Breasted, the guy who first translated the Edwin Smith Papyrus, put it, the ancient Egyptian physician had insights that were just stunningly ahead of their time.
The idea of the heart as a pump, that wouldn't be fully accepted in Europe for another 3,000 years.
And that's the real takeaway here. The true legacy of the Edwin Smith Papyrus isn't a bunch of ancient prescriptions. It's the birth of a method, a structured, evidence-based, observational way of understanding and treating the human body. It's one of the very first glimmers of what we now call the scientific method.
And that just leaves us with a pretty fascinating thought, doesn't it? If a way of thinking that feels so modern to us was already being used more than 3,500 years ago, what other amazing ideas are still out there, just waiting for us to rediscover them, hiding in plain sight in our ancient past?